It's making me regret as a fan, like us firing Bud, because he was such a good defensive coach. Yes, he had his hiccups, especially in the playoffs sometimes. But I think if we stuck with him, we'd probably be in a better situation now.
Welcome to episode 3 of the Pick and Roll podcast. An exciting week of basketball, so we're excited to talk about that. How are you, mate?
I'm good. How's your week been? Back to normal pretty much.
It has been back to normal. There were no birthdays this week, so we were sort of watching games, taking notes. So we've got a very good podcast in store for you today.
And to kick things off, speaking of notes, I've seen you've done a lot of notes.
You know me.
On the Nets and Clippers game.
Yep.
So I was wondering if you wanted to speak about the rhythm of the game or what you were talking about in these notes.
So the Clippers won the game 125-114. The Nets pretty much didn't score in the last 6 or so minutes of the game. Star performances this game were Kawhi Leonard. He's been great all season, and this game was really no exception. He was really a bright spot for them because they didn't score very well at all during the game. And then another bright spot, I don't watch a whole lot of Clippers basketball, I'll say that. I definitely want to watch some more after this because Russell Westbrook was one of the most electrifying players that I've seen this season.
Yeah, he's almost becoming underrated in the fact that people began to overrate him so much and hate so much that now he's actually become underrated and a significant piece off the bench for the Clippers at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't know. Obviously, I watched Russ in his prime. I probably stopped watching him halfway in his Lakers sort of stint. That's when I stopped watching him regularly and stopped sort of paying attention to him as much. But yeah, he's so electrifying. Whenever he gets a shot up, he makes sure to crash the boards and get his own offensive rebound. He had 4 this game, and a lot of that in the third quarter when they desperately needed to catch up and keep up because the Nets were, the Nets shot extremely well that game. Again, I don't watch a whole lot of Nets games, but they aren't one of the best offensive teams. In fact, they're one of the worst offensive teams in the league. But they scored so efficiently this game. They had a 48% field goal percentage. And that is also factoring in their last quarter, which was not good at all. They missed basically all of their shots in the last 6 minutes, as we said. But yeah, the Clippers comeback was really led by Kawhi Leonard, James Harden. James Harden was also a really good standout performance from that game. He got into his ISO ball game late in the fourth, which is where he's most effective. I think ISO ball and also the pick and roll. Zubac wasn't playing that game, so we didn't see any of that, but Mason Plumlee was there doing his thing. But yeah, he sort of started it off. They were playing outstanding defense. That was probably one of their best defensive quarters of the year. And when they did defend well, they pushed hard on the fast break and caught Kawhi on multiple occasions, Norman Powell on multiple occasions. Norman Powell was also good in that fourth quarter, hit a very clutch 3. But yeah, the flow of the game was very interesting because the Nets really did look like the better team. The Clippers' defense wasn't good for the first 3 quarters. For some reason, they just couldn't keep up. They had Mikal Bridges driving in, so they were swinging the ball really hard. They'd find Mikal Bridges with a bit of space, he'd drive in, and then he had the option. He's a great finisher, so he could either finish or kick out to an open shooter like Cam Johnson, who was effective in the first 3 quarters. But speaking of 3 quarters, Mikal Bridges was the epitome of that. He played exceptional in the first 3. I think he had 22 at halftime. And then I don't think he scored in the last quarter, and he scored 4 points after halftime, I believe, at top of the head. So yeah, really weird game. A lot of ebbs and flows, but really shows what kind of a team the Clippers are, battling adversity, and that's extremely important in come playoff time.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about the Clippers the past couple of weeks and definitely showcasing their improvement, but also the ability of teams to win those close games, those games that you should win, but you aren't in the position to. We're kind of talking about the Bucks a couple of weeks ago, just winning against the Spurs, and you think the Clippers should take this game easily. The Nets are playing bad basketball right now, but the ability to, when you're in that position, win those games, be clutch, is what makes championship DNA. And it's great to see Westbrook and especially Harden have a renaissance of their career with the Clippers, and they're really starting to fulfill the potential of what people thought they were possible of when they signed Paul George and Kawhi those years ago.
No, in theory, the Clippers team, it's kind of doesn't make a lot of sense because you've got three players who need the ball a lot, but I think Paul George has sort of settled into his role as the second option, and he's happy with that role. He's playing it really well. Kawhi Leonard is the man of the team, and I think the reason why the Clippers are doing so well, they've all figured out their roles. I think the coaches have done well implementing good lineups, which they didn't do very well when Harden was first traded. But that also brings me to an interesting point. In the last 6 minutes when they made their run, they put in their small ball lineup. Kawhi Leonard was the tallest player on the Clippers team on the court at that time. They had Russell Westbrook, James Harden on the court at the same time, and Norman Powell as the kick-out shooter. So what do you think of that? They played amazing defense, which they didn't play when they've tried the lineup before.
Yeah, well, that's just putting faith in your veteran players, I think. I didn't get to watch the end of this game.
Yep.
But you said when they tried it before, it didn't work. I just think that's putting faith in the clutch moments. They had the run of play and just backing the ability of, Harden's improved as a defender over the years. Westbrook as well has improved as a defender as their careers have gone on. So I guess, they just did the work when it mattered most.
Mm-hmm. And that lineup is that small ball lineup is obviously great offensively. I think it was just the defense where they suffered just a little bit. But yeah, as you said, you've got two great two-way players on the team, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and then Harden and Russell Westbrook have figured out their roles defensively, poking loose balls. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that small ball lineup can work when the Clippers need to make late pushes. Not sure if it'll work in the playoffs when the pace is a bit slower, but
probably not, but yeah, never know.
It is a very fast-paced sort of lineup, so interesting one.
Yeah, and that was a weird game to kick off the week, but also what happened this week was the anniversary of Kobe's 81 points, and that day we were scrambling to get notes. There were games left and right. Obviously, I assume most of you watching would know. There were some massive performances that day, which included a KD 43 and a game winner, Tatum 39. But the two games that we really wanted to cover was, of course, the Joel 70 and Cat 62.
Mm-hmm. What a day to do it. Kobe's 81 anniversary. I don't actually know if that was what they planned, but if they did plan it, they planned it to perfection. Do you want to start at Spurs versus Sixers?
Yep. All right. So obviously Joel Embiid had a 70-point game, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, with 9 of those rebounds being offensive boards. So just crashing the glass like a monster against Wemby and Zach Collins. Didn't really stand a chance. He made 41 field goals at 58%, which is rare to see a high percentage on that many field goals. Wemby going against Joel had 33 and 7, which is a good game for Wemby, but obviously got overshadowed by the massive performance, and Sixers ended up winning the game by 10 points, 133 to 123. And scoring 70, Joel broke the franchise single game record, which is 68 by Wilt, and beat his career high by 11 points, and tops the list for the top score this season so far, beating out Giannis with his 64.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying that he was mad at himself for missing a few shots early, and he could do more or less whatever he wanted, starting the game shooting his usual shots around the free throw line and getting to his groove, and then later become more of a presence under the rim and really dominating Zach Collins and Wemby, mainly Zach Collins. We know Wemby's a good defender.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just his night. Everything was going to plan. What were your thoughts on the game?
So that was, he did it in 36 minutes, which has never been done before, and to shoot 41 field goals at 58% in 36 minutes is just unbelievable. The pace of the game.
That's over a field goal a minute.
Yeah, crazy. So I think that's also due to the pace of the game. It was a very quick game, especially going into the third quarter when they passed it up to Embiid, who really went to his post game in the third quarter after his first few quarters, as you said, pulling up from the free throw line, his usual game in the mid-range. Third quarter he really attacked Wemby, really attacked Collins, who was they were both really no match. Wemby because he's skinny, and Joel is one of the thickest boys in the league. And then you got Zach Collins, who, again, if you've got players like Rudy Gobert getting 50 dropped on his head against Embiid, what chance does someone like Zach? Sorry, no disrespect to Zach Collins, but what chance does Zach Collins have against Wemby, against Joel? Joel really caught it on the wings, high post, and really went to work. He pulled out some moves that game that I'd never seen him do before. Like, he had this really aggressive spin move, and then up and under that I've never seen him do. And I think he's honestly pulling out those moves against Wemby because he's such a good shot blocker, and you really need to be deceptive against a player like Wemby. He had the full bag on the line. He only hit 1 3 all game, but that wasn't from that was from a lack of shooting them, which I really like to see. Joel, I like to see him in the mid-range game, even though he is a good 3-point shooter. I think he really thrives within the arc. The Sixers shot 29% from 3 as a team, which reiterates the importance of crashing the glass. As you said, Joel, 9 offensive rebounds. And like the Wemby and Giannis game, I think both Wemby and Embiid came with an agenda. Because Wemby obviously wants to prove a point against the best, or arguably the most dominant center in the league, as someone who wants to be dominating the league for the next 20 years. And then Embiid wants to prove that he still is the most dominant and that he can dominate even someone with such an upside as Wembanyama.
Yeah, not much more to say about that game, but also on the same day, Cat had 62 in a 125-128 loss to the Hornets, which is a very weird game, very strange. Weird. I wasn't watching this. I was keeping track of it over the day, but Cat became the first player to score 10 3-point field goals, 10 2-point field goals, and 10 free throws in a game. The first player in NBA history. I'm surprised that hasn't happened already, to be honest.
No.
But it was very
nuts performance.
Impressive, shooting-wise especially. But also, in the end, his coach called him out, saying it was an absolutely disgusting performance of defense and immature basketball. What do you make of those comments?
I'm on the same boat as you. I didn't watch the game. I was so endorsed in Wemby's 70-point game. Sorry, not Wemby. Goodness, maybe one day, but Embiid's 70-point game. And I was also at work, so I didn't watch it. But Karl Anthony Towns, the rumours were that he had such a good first half. Kudos to him. That wasn't, I think, what the coach was talking about. I think in the first half, it was an outstanding game. But the rumour was that they went into the locker room at halftime, saw that Embiid had scored 70, and they were like, he can't outscore you, he can't outshine you tonight. You need to put in a better performance. I think that's sort of the vibe that was going on in the Timberwolves locker room. And for the rest of the game, they were feeding him unnecessarily. They weren't running the plays set. and they were playing more ISO ball on Karl Anthony Towns in situations where it wasn't appropriate, close game, with the ebbs and flows of the NBA, the runs that teams go on. You need to listen to the coach. You need to go through what your system is optimized for. And I don't think they were doing it in the second half of that game. And there were moments in the second half of that game where Cat was, the opportunity was there for Cat to be fed. He was trailing on a fast break, I saw on one of the highlights on Instagram, and they didn't hit him. So it was weird basketball, as you said, weird game. Do you have anything else to add on that? Yeah,
well, I was keeping track of it, and Ant, halfway through the third quarter, until then he had 0 points, and he ended up with only 9. That's very interesting. Obviously, he didn't take that many shots because Cat was taking most of the offense, but still, on an initial glance, you might be like, oh, no one's coming with him, no one's scoring to keep them in the game with this low-ranked offensive team. But at the end of the day, he did have 7 turnovers in the game and shot 2 for 10 in the fourth quarter, and eventually got benched due to the situation of the game. So obviously it's still impressive to a degree. I don't know if I'd outright call it just straight up bad basketball. Obviously he had a great first half. We need to recognise that, but just didn't play to the game situation, I guess, and didn't find his teammates on open looks. And yeah, you do have to learn the hard way probably through your coach giving you a spray, but yeah.
So Chris Finch pretty much said in front of everyone in the world, absolutely disgusting basketball. Absolutely disgusting performance on defense and immature basketball. The Hornets ranked 27th in offense this season, and they shot a season high 58% from the field that game. So, I mean, you can give credit to the Hornets. They did shoot really well. I think the Timberwolves had some missed calls late in the fourth, which they were a bit frustrated about. But obviously, that wasn't the reason they lost. As Chris Finch said, just immature basketball. And for a first seed, we'll talk about it in a sec, but they were the first seed. Now the OKC Thunder are the first seed, but for a top 2 seed, and really a contender in a lot of people's eyes, that isn't the sort of basketball you want to be seeing.
Yeah, we have to give credit to the Hornets, of course. They fought back in this game. They were down, and they hit a lot of tough shots in the clutch. But you know, the main point of the game is bringing the Timberwolves into question and asking, are they ready to make a deep playoff push? As they were the number 1 seed, and people were starting to, play around with the contender-pretender tags. What do you think after seeing a performance like this?
The Timberwolves, 90% of nights are, first of all, they're the best defense in the league, but they're also very effective on offense. Especially this season. But in terms of maturity, I don't think, personally, after that game, I don't think they're a contender in terms of keeping up with the Boston Celtics, OKC, the Nuggets, because they don't have that deep playoff experience, which I think is super important. Obviously, they've been eliminated in the first couple rounds for the last maybe 5 years. So I think if this isn't their year, then at least they need to go to the conference finals or somewhere around that, at least to the second round, get a bit of playoff experience. I find it interesting for Cat being a trade piece. I heard a rumour that he could be a trade piece, whether we're going into the off-season, depending on how the Timberwolves go, or even this season, which would shake up the NBA. But I think Cat honestly has a big part to do with the team's immaturity, because we've seen it for years. Anthony Edwards brings professionalism, which I really like Anthony Edwards for. A lot of people on that team bring professionalism, but I think a mood of like an immature player like that. Well, I'm not going to call him an immature player, but showing signs of immaturity like that really bring down a team. So yeah, I don't see them as contender this year, but if they get a bit of late playoff experience, then I might see them as a contender in years to come. But the problem lies for me in Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't see them as contenders this year. It's hard, even with teams like the Thunder and that being a top seed, it's hard to see the contender status without having playoff experience already and being a younger team. I really like Cat, but when you picture Cat in your mind, you usually think like he's pretty young still, but at the end of the day, I think he's like, how old is he now? 27, 28?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting up there, and if he's still having these instances, having these issues, then maybe it is time to move on. But also, I don't know, if I was the Timberwolves, I'd probably keep him. I don't know if I'd switch it up. They're experiencing so much success. There's so much to find out. He's just got to pull his head in a bit. Coaches need to meet together and just see how they can get rid of these instances from their game. But apart from that, they definitely have the chance to win a playoff series, and I think that'll do them some good. But definitely, they've still got a chance for years to come if this isn't their year, which I don't think it will be in the end.
Think about the value of Karl Anthony Towns at the moment as well. Obviously, you've got the problem we're talking about, but he's shooting so well this year. He is really valuable for them, and is a big part of their success, either as the first or second option. Some people might argue that he's been the first option this year. Not the first option, but the best player on the team with his efficiency. So I think the Timberwolves could get someone really good for a trade. But again, as we mentioned, it's really depends on how they go this year. You might need to reconsider when it comes to the off season, but I think Cat's value is pretty much near an all-time high at the moment. So it's an interesting prospect.
It is very interesting, and I don't know who they would trade for, who's on the block that would fill that void kind of, or who they make a trade for. But with the 62 points and it being called a bad game, it does lead to another point that we have, and that is there an NBA scoring inflation issue? Because having 62 points back in the day, I feel like even on bad efficiency, if you still miss plays and didn't find your open teammates, it'd still be called a good game. You'd still be looked at, because 62 points back then was so much of a greater feat. And now with 62 and 70 on days, we're having 50s or 45s every other week. Do you think there's a problem with NBA scoring and inflation?
Yeah, well, there are 4 players this year averaging 30 plus points. There were 6 last year. But if you look back just 10 years ago, the 2013-14 season, the league leader in points was Russell Westbrook. How many points do you think he averaged?
I can see it on my screen, but 28?
Forget your screen. He averaged 28. Only 14 in the 20 years prior to that, someone averaged over 30 points. So that's less than a person a season for 20 years before that. And you can see this in team scoring as well, because this year teams are averaging 115 points per game, which it was last done in the 1969-70 season. And then 10 years ago, teams averaged 100 points per game, 15 points less in a game. Obviously, we can point at this. The contribution is due to faster pace, lighter defense, more three-pointers. But my problem with NBA inflation is that it skews points per game and player data. Like, you look at someone who's averaging 30 this year, you can argue that today's 30 is 20 years ago's 20 points per game. So when you compare the likes of, say, it's a trend, and you could probably calculate what the sort of points per game from today is. You can sort of calculate what it is today and how it compares to 20 years ago, but it makes it extremely hard. You see players go on extreme scoring runs, but whether this is due to an actual increase of skill or just a factor of inflation, point inflation.
I think it's a combination of both, to be honest. Obviously, as time goes on, players become more efficient and the NBA's run at a faster pace, more three-pointers, as we've seen in the Steph Curry revolution. And the rules a couple years ago, they changed when you can't when Trae Young used to do a floater and just stop and then you get fouled, they took that out. They took where you can kick your feet out of it. Now that's an offensive foul. So I don't know what the NBA would do particularly. I don't know if there's necessarily a problem. Us as fans just have to get used to stat lines being less comparable across eras. And at the end of the day, you could say offense sells games. So they would do anything in their power to create more offense. But I just think it's the players I saw a video on this actually by Jimmy Harroller. He was talking about, and players are just too efficient. They're shooting how many shots by the time they get to the league. So I think they're just more well practiced, and I don't think there's any real rules you could change to change that.
What about free throw rules, like foul rules, offensive fouls? Because that is a large point of point generation, offense generation in like today's NBA.
Yeah, well, we see players like Giannis and Embiid average 10 to 12, whatever it is, free throws per game. But at the end of the day, that's because they're getting in the paint. They're putting shots up and they are being fouled because they're just bigger and stronger. I do think that, obviously there's bad calls. We see the bad calls now in the new age of media. Bad calls get spread like wildfire. You're going to see them everywhere. And yeah, the NBA could do a better job with officials pointing out which ones are offensive fouls or just no calls. But I don't think that would help keep down the overall scoring. I still think it'd go up even with the increase in free throws per game by especially bigger players.
Mm-hmm. I think players have just become such masters of drawing fouls as well. But I think out of any rule, I think that's one I would change personally. Because even as a Joel Embiid fan, even as a Giannis fan, I'm sure you can agree that sometimes these foul calls are a bit ridiculous. I mean, Joel Embiid is such a good shooter, and that's why he also gets players drawn into drawing fouls. That's why he draws fouls, because he can pump fake in the mid-range area. Players will go up to defend, and then he'll pump fake, their hand's already up there, and then he'll slide through and hit the player's hand on the way up, and he's extremely good at finishing through contact, so he usually finishes those plays. But it's a really hard rule to sort of implement, because I feel like it will need to be subjective. If it was a rule it's up to the referee to decide if a player gets hit hard enough, maybe, then it will be counted as a foul. But if it's a soft touch to the arm, then it's not a foul, which a lot of fouls are these days. It's soft touches to the arms that are barely contact.
You could say that does affect shot motion, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it'd be too subjective, I think, to change, because that's another problem with the NBA's rules at the moment. And throughout history, a lot of it is subjective. When you've got games like tennis, it's either in or it's out. So, yeah, it's a hard rule to implement, but does anything need to change at the moment?
I don't think so, not at the moment. We're just seeing an evolution in the game like we've seen with, I was talking about earlier, Steph Curry's threes, were there rules? I wasn't a fan really when it started taking off. Mm-hmm. But were there rules to try and stop him from making more threes? I think it's just the evolution of the game, and it's going to happen whether fans like it or not. Teams are just going to score more and be more offensively minded, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to win games, I guess.
And just to add on to that, I've got a question for you that I've been thinking about. Would this explosion in offense make it easier for a player to beat LeBron's scoring record, 39,000 points at the moment, I think, or
and
close
counting,
to,
yeah.
and counting.
Yeah.
Will it make it easier, and will it be done? What do you think?
Well, I saw again Jimmy High Roller video the other day where he was talking about and saying that it would pretty much be impossible to see someone beat LeBron's scoring record in our lifetime. And I agree to a certain point that, to stay a level of consistency and keep that up for such a long time is very hard. But if, say that teams go from averaging 115 points to 125, 130 points a game, which is very feasible. The Indiana Pacers, I don't know, they're the top, one of the top offenses in the league. I don't know what they're averaging at the moment. But it's very common to see them have a 140, a 150 game on a week-by-week basis. So, yeah, I definitely could see a situation where that leads to someone beating LeBron's scoring record, but I just think it'd have to reach a new level of increase. Now it's not at a level where I don't think that someone could break it, to be honest.
I think it was someone would need to average 30 points for 16 plus seasons or something to be with playing 70 games a season, I believe it was, throughout their career. But back to what I said before, there were 6 players last year averaging 30 points per game. And I feel like that's only going to rise. As you said, in 10 years, it's feasible for a team to be averaging 125 points instead of 115. So with that, you'll see players score more points and probably more 30-point averages per season. So if you've got a player averaging 30 points, it'll be much easier to keep that going for, say, 15 years, even though that's extremely hard, and I don't expect anyone to ever do that. But it's interesting. I feel like I don't hear that factored in enough, the explosion in scoring in LeBron's record.
Yeah, well, to cap off my point, really, I think fans just have to learn to embrace it. We spend so much time. They say comparison is the thief of joy. Comparing and wanting to compare players from past and present has always been difficult, but only get more difficult as scoring increases. And I think we just have to look at it, at the scoring more in a scope of today's NBA, as it is, more relevant and more comparable.
Yep.
Moving on, the Bucks. This is not a Bucks podcast. The Bucks fire Adrian Griffin and pick up Doc Rivers as their head coach.
I want to sit back for a little while. I just want to hear you talk about it because
I'm just gonna ramble.
You've got the Bucks insight.
Yeah,
I don't have the Bucks insight. Let me hear it.
Well, first off, most fans would look at Adrian Griffin and be like, the Bucks are the second in the East. They have a 30-13 record, which I think is around 70%. Why would he get fired? He was only a first-year coach, but it was more the way in which they played games. We were winning a lot of close games against teams that it shouldn't be close against. Our defense, they say defense is on the players to a certain point, but especially at the start of the season, our defensive schemes were just not there. We saw the Bucks can be a top defense in the league even last year before, and under Coach Bud. During their championship year, they were one of the top defenses. They've got Giannis, they've got Brook, and they had Drew, which is a factor. But I think it was mainly down to the defensive schemes and the rotations that he ran with Giannis and Dame coming off at the same time, not leaving one of them on the floor and giving Dame less minutes than he would like, and not allowing him to play the whole first quarter as he did in his time in Portland to get into his groove. So as a fan, my initial reaction was like, what? But I understand. I don't know. I'm usually a fan of letting things play out and seeing how they go. But I understand why the Bucks organization did this. It's making me regret as a fan, like us firing Bud, because, he was such a good defensive coach. Yes, he had his hiccups, especially in the playoffs sometimes. But I think if we stuck with him, we'd probably be in a better situation now than we are. And signing Doc Rivers, I obviously I know Doc Rivers. You had Doc Rivers as your coach, so I want to know your thoughts. But obviously he's a winning coach. He can get it done in the regular season, but what it really comes down to is the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but I know that he's blown a lot of 3-1 leads. In fact, that's what he's famous for. That's what most people know him for. He led a team. He coached a team with T-Mac, a very good Orlando Magic team in his first few years as a coach. Was so promising. Led them to the 1 seed. He had the Boston Big Three. He blew a 3-1 lead with them as well, which was one of the biggest what is going on moments in NBA history, because obviously on paper they're an unbelievable team. And then back to what I know most of all is my Sixers being led by him. Obviously it's a hard team to coach when you've got James Harden, Joel Embiid, a rising Maxey, because James Harden obviously had very different objectives to Doc Rivers and the rest of the team. As he said, he's the system. He wants to be the system. And when you've got Joel averaging 30 points per game, being so ball dominant, you can't let James Harden do all that he wants to do. So it was a hard position that Doc was put into. And when it comes to playoff success, I think Doc Rivers does best when there's already foundation laid. With the Clippers, he was extremely successful, even though I feel like that team could have and should have gone further with Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, 2 All-Stars, and then DeAndre Jordan, an All-Star in a few seasons as well. But the Bucks have foundation because obviously they won a championship a few years ago. Their team has changed a bit since then, but their core is somewhat, I feel like their system is run in a pretty similar way, other than Damian Lillard at the helm at the PG. So yeah, I obviously don't know as well as you how the Bucks play basketball, but I do know how Doc Rivers coaches, and I think he's going to really let Giannis do what he wants, which is something that Adrian Griffin didn't let Giannis do. He kept Giannis very constrained. Giannis subbed himself in a few weeks ago when Adrian Griffin tried to bench him. Obviously, there was a bit of conflict there. I don't think you're going to see that with Doc Rivers. He's very player-orientated. So I see success. I think they're in a better situation than they were a week ago. And they're 30-4. They were 30-14 at the point of the trade. So I think it's only going to get better. I think they're going to continue to win. And I do want to hear your. Do you think it was the right time to make the trade? Because obviously they were doing so well, 30-14. I think that's only
13.
30-13
when they made the trade.
Yeah, which has only happened once before, that a team was 30-13 or better.
And that was when Ty Lue came in to coach the Cavs in 2016. And that worked out in a championship.
No. So what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if it was the right time. And obviously there's a lot of talk about, Giannis and Dame made the decision, which they well could have. There's no way of us knowing. And there was talks about like the Bucks were dancing the game after he got fired, but they do that every game. I'm sure a lot of people don't realise.
The media loves pointing stuff like that out.
They do, but they do that nearly every game that I watch. So, it's just a bad look. The media will spin it that way. But I think it's an improvement. I agree that from a week ago, we're in a better position, and they're trying to maximise the end of Dame's prime. They're trying to maximise Giannis in his prime. So I understand why they did it. Probably not the best time. I feel bad for Adrian Griffin. He really didn't do anything particularly wrong. He had his faults, but he's a first-year coach. But bringing Doc Rivers in, I think, it maximises the potential. We'll just have to see. Obviously, the Bucks, we've got the talent to be good during the regular season. It's just about playoff time. And then we'll look back and we'll say that this is a good take or a bad take. And that's all you can say, really.
You just got to hope that the Bucks get to a 3-0 lead, not a 3-1 lead, because you win it in that case.
Yeah, true.
Damn.
And building on from that, I've got a quiz for you.
Oh, I'm ready.
You didn't know what it was.
No. I hope I do well because I'm doing
coach winning percentage across their career.
Okay.
And the first one, relevancy, Adrian Griffin or Doc Rivers?
Adrian Griffin or Doc Rivers? So this is a higher or lower?
Yes, who has a higher winning percentage? And obviously this is a small sample size for Adrian Griffin, but
yeah,
it'll be fun.
So if I can work out 30 and 13 as a percentage, I'm not going to look it up. 30 and 13 is awfully good. Then you've got Doc Rivers. It's obviously Adrian Griffin.
It is.
Obviously. I don't know why I thought about it.
That was an easy first one. Yeah, 69.7% to 59%.
It's closer than I sort of thought. I didn't know Doc Rivers. I mean, he has led so many good teams, and it's a regular season stat, so...
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, next up, we have Doc Rivers or Eric Spoelstra.
Spoels.
I will say this is a close one.
Yeah, because he's obviously led the LeBron Lakers, but then you do have some dark days in Miami times, like I think 2015, Josh Richardson, Hassan Whiteside, Justice Winslow, who was going to be the next superstar. But there weren't too many years of dark days, and Eric Spoelstra is seen as such a valuable coach. But you're trying to throw me off, so I'm going to go lower.
So you're saying Eric Spoelstra has a lower percentage than Doc?
Now switching it up. He's got a higher one.
Incorrect.
No!
The mind games. But it's so close that I hope my math's right.
Okay.
Because Doc Rivers has a 59% winning percentage and Eric Spoelstra has a 58.9%
Oh my God.
winning percentage. And I looked it up, so I hope whatever website I used had the right statistics.
Obviously, as for winning so many championships, if you think about all the championships that Eric's won compared to Doc Rivers, who... Has Doc Rivers won a championship with the team? Yeah, he won with Boston. Yeah. Scrap what I was trying to say.
And the last one, we have Eric Spoelstra or Greg Popovich. Could seem easy at first.
But it definitely isn't. It definitely isn't, because Greg has some dark days. And I can't help but feel that Eric and Doc would have one of the highest winning percentages as a coach out of anyone. But then again, the Spurs were a first/second seed for around 10 years, I would say, in the 2000s, 2010s.
So that's your final answer. Does he know ball?
I gotta say lower. I can't imagine him winning over 60% of his games.
So Spoelstra is higher than Popovich?
I think Spoelstra has a higher winning percentage.
Wrong again.
Are you kidding?
Popovich has a 63.4%.
That is crazy.
Winning. And just the years that he stayed at that one seed and winning championships, even though these dark days that they're currently in, it doesn't outweigh the winning seasons.
Yeah, wow.
I thought it was a fun game. It really puts into perspective a lot of things that even I didn't know. I had to look up, but I thought it was fun given the Griffin and Rivers comparison.
Yeah. I don't know ball. Wait, how many? Did I get one right?
Yeah, you got Griffin and Adrian.
Oh, that was the obvious one though. Damn.
1 out of 3.
I don't know ball.
Time.
I don't know ball. Shit. So we're gonna go into the All-Star game because obviously we've had the starters announced this week. So the starters were, I don't actually have it written here, but it was Jalen Brunson, So shit, it was not Jalen Brunson. Shit.
So the starters got announced this week.
Yeah.
And the starters were for the East, Joel Embiid, Giannis, Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, and Damian Lillard, which obviously we'll talk about in a second. And for the West, they were Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Luka Doncic. So initial thoughts on the announcement.
Initial thoughts. Between us, I think we had Anthony Davis going instead of LeBron for the last 2 weeks when we've sort of talked about it. And obviously LeBron was picked, but then again, I don't really see a world where LeBron isn't the starter of an All-Star game. I think until the year that he's not an All-Star, he's going to be a starter. So I think the rest of it sort of panned out the way that we wanted, except your boy Damian Lillard instead of Jalen Brunson.
He stole it.
He stole it, straight up.
As a Bucks fan, I'll admit that Jalen Brunson has been playing insane. I think I had him in my team of the week last week, who was averaging 35 a game for that particular week. And Dame has just not been there in efficiency in scoring. Obviously, it's been good. He's an all-star caliber player. He should be in the team. But starter, I think that's just basically fans' votes. I don't think that's a true representation of the way they're playing this year.
Yep. Brunson, more points per game, around the same rebounding, around the same assists, but he has a high assist percentage. So assists, he assists the ball at a high percentage of teammate field goals when they're on the floor. They're around the same with steals and blocks. He's way more efficient, Jalen Brunson. So Damian Lillard is shooting 42% from the field. Jalen Brunson, 47%. He's shooting better from three. Damian Lillard having an off sort of year, 34% from three. And Jalen Brunson, 42% from three, which is insane. And he's also got a higher player efficiency rating, 21 to 20, and a higher value over replacement player, 2.5 to 1.6. He also has higher win shares. So he attributes to advanced statistically, he attributes to more wins and more winning when he's on the floor. He shoots better. He averages more points per game. I don't really see, obviously it's a fan vote, but I don't really see what the league is doing.
Yeah, look, let's be honest. He should be the starter. I'm surprised the Knicks fans didn't band together and try and increase his vote. But yeah, look, we know the All-Star game takes liberties of LeBron shouldn't be the captain. Like, even if he is a starter, he's not, the best player on the floor. But yeah, there's definitely a bit of backlash, and Jalen Brunson should definitely be the starter the way he's been playing recently.
I think this being the starter, obviously it's not do or die. Jalen Brunson's going to be an all-star. But I think in terms of career accolades, when you're put as a starter on an all-star team, that's basically saying you're the best at your position in your conference. And Damian Lillard just hasn't been the best point guard in the league in the Eastern Conference this year.
Yeah, he's had a down year, like I said before, efficiency-wise and fitting into that new Bucks scheme, which I'm saying, obviously he's not playing bad, but, Brunson definitely deserved it more. And arguably Tyrese Maxey deserved it more. I would give my point as well.
More than Damian Lillard, but Jalen Brunson is the clear
I agree.
starter. Yep, agreed. And they also revealed the All-Star jerseys. So what do you think of them? They're a bit darker.
Average. Below average.
Below average?
They're clean.
Yeah.
But they're not very exciting. I don't know.
They're not bright.
I like a bit of pop of colour, especially.
You like to associate like high energy, bright colours with the All-Star game.
Like this one.
Like that one. Which is one of the coolest All-Star jerseys. I would say the Phoenix one is the coolest. The one with the big old cactus on it. But yeah, no, I kind of like it because I don't know. I feel like they will tailor the All-Star court to sort of suit that sort of Indiana vibe, that sort of like the darker tones. So I feel like it'll look cool. and it differentiates itself from other years as well. It definitely looks very different, so you'll be able to associate the jerseys with this year, which I sort of like. I think they're clean.
It's not the worst.
Yeah.
But I definitely prefer a proper colour in mine. I like it to be bright, flashy. That's what I think of when I think of All-Star games, going back to those 2016 kind of days.
Yeah.
But also they got rid of the player draft this year.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
No, I don't like that. I mean, it comes with putting it into East versus West, because obviously East are going to play for East, West are going to play for West. But I really like the televised drafting, All-Star drafting. It was very entertaining. I think there was a lot of banter, a lot of drama. It was interesting to see where alliances were. We saw Katie not pick up James Harden 2 years ago, which was very funny. It makes for good media. So no, I think obviously I like the East versus West. I liked it when it was in the 2010s when I was watching it. But yeah, it's a bit sad to see it go, honestly.
Yeah, I agree in the fact that I reckon they should have just kept it because, East and West, that was back when the All-Star game players really tried. Mm-hmm. Or they didn't try 100%. But
it's competitive.
It was competitive. There was more of an aura around the All-Star game, and now that we've come into the 2020s, it's sort of taken a back seat, as in, the players aren't really going to try. It's not really that interesting of a game. It's just fun to see who is an All-Star. So I think the draft definitely made that more interesting and led to a lot of funny moments, dramatic moments. I'm surprised they didn't keep it around. I don't know actually what the official reason was they got rid of it, but I think it made for, I don't know. It's. I think we'll look back at it and be like, that was a fun couple years.
It'll come back eventually, I feel. What goes around comes around. Do you think they should bring back the team kits, as in Joel wears a Philly jersey, Tyrese wears a Pacers jersey? What do you think? Those are pretty cool. Does that come back next year?
I think it does. No, I don't think it will. I think it should. At least for 1 year, try it out. It looks clean. You just got to remember who's on your team.
True. They got the white jerseys for the home team and the away jerseys for the away team. But it is still hard to figure it out. I've watched highlights before of those games. Obviously, I didn't watch them when they were around, but I found them quite confusing at some points. But it'd be cool. I like it.
I reckon bring it back.
Bring it back. So we'll go into the next segment of the podcast, and that is Team of the Week.
I'm ready.
So we're going to do it in the draft format like last week. We got some good feedback from that. And as per usual, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, sixth man.
You got first pick this week.
I got the first pick. So my point guard. So this guy. Oh, okay. No, I'm not going to pick him as the point guard. That'd be wrong. I'm going to pick. He did play a bit of point guard. So with my point guard pick, I'm going to go with a guy that scored 55 points last game, 34 the game before, 33, and then 33. Luka Doncic had an incredible week.
Yeah. Look. The obvious pick there. Mm-hmm. If you weren't going there, I was going there straight away.
Yeah. Mavs have been losing though, which we'll get into eventually. But
yeah, see, do I take a primary shooting guard or do I just go the straight up point guard? I'm going to go the straight up point guard. I'm going to give him his flowers this week. Jalen Brunson. I had him last week. I'm going to take him again. I could have took Dame, but that shows my stance on the whole issue. But I'm happy with that pick. He's averaging just under 30 points a game, 6 assists, and on better efficiency than Dame, who was the other player I was considering.
Got to give Jalen his props. He's had a hard week. You got the next pick.
I do, and look, it's pretty obvious. I'm pretty sure this is the player that you were debating whether to put at point guard.
Yeah, you know it.
And that's D-Book. He's averaging 35 points a game. Obviously had that monster 46 game in rivalry week, which we'll cover in a second, against Luka and the Mavs. But yeah, just monstrous, the obvious pick, I think.
All right. I'm going to throw this one out there because I really want to pick him. Would you be happy with me picking Shea?
I would, and that's who I was going to pick if
Okay.
I had the second pick. So I'm fine with that.
Because most people would say he's the point guard of the team, but he plays shooting guard minutes as well. So Shea is my second pick.
Yeah, that's a completely fair pick. He's been playing really well this week. And you've got the first pick of
I do.
the small forwards. This is an interesting one this week, I reckon.
Yeah. This week I'm going to go with Kevin Durant. Obviously, some games he's taken a bit of a backseat. Let Booker do his thing. But, last game he had a 15. Game before he had a 12. But before that, he had a 43 and a 40. So that's why he's my pick. He's also been passing the ball as well. 8 assists, one of those games.
Nice. I zoned out for a second. Was that KD?
That was Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Good. But I'm going to take the underrated pick, the fun pick, Harrison Barnes.
Wow.
At the small forward.
I was thinking about that.
It's fun. He averaged 35.5 points per game, and obviously had that monster 39 points career high in the Kings win over the Warriors. So yeah, I think it's just the fun pick. He deserves his probs. If you didn't take him, I was definitely going to take him. And now it's the power forward. And again, interesting. They call him immature, but I'm going to take Cat.
Damn.
I'm going to take
That was my
Cat.
pick.
It had to be done.
62.
He's the standout power forward from this week.
Yeah, 100%. But I think I've got someone who is relatively close in terms of consistency this week, averaging the amount of points that he did. Shit. That's tough. Nah, I'm going to go with another fun pick.
Yeah, good.
I'm going to go with Jonathan Kuminga. 14 for 14 a couple games ago. Last game, he did a great game as well. I think they came away with a win against Sacramento won, of course. But
yeah, I was going to say either, I was going to take him for my sixth man if he wasn't going, which I didn't think he would. But if
I know who you're going to pick for your sixth man, though. So
no, you've got first six man pick. Do you?
No, I got first centre pick.
Ah, nice.
His face lit up.
But still, yeah. No, but centre,
My centre is Joel Embiid.
obvious. And I'm taking Jokic. It's pretty
Yeah.
much, that's the consistent.
Yep, 70 points.
Yeah.
Crazy
Jokic's having 30-point triple doubles. He's average this week. So
Yep.
it's pretty obvious.
And we can go straight into the sixth man now.
We can, and
Your
that's
pick.
me. And see, I want to do a fun pick, but you've left me that I'm going to take Giannis at my sixth man. Honestly, who you take, and I'm just going to say who I had written down for my sixth man.
I think you might. I'm going to go with D'Angelo Russell as my sixth man. Is that who you were thinking of?
Angelo Russell.
Yep.
Is that who you're taking?
I'm taking D'Angelo with my sixth.
Okay, I had Şengün or Dame or Kuminga. That you already took Kuminga, but that's who I had on my. Şengün's averaging 30 points this week, 12 rebounds, 8 assists. So I think that was notable enough to have a centre as your sixth man. But yeah, it was fun.
D'Angelo heard the trade rumours and he's gone.
He heard us.
He's gone. He heard us, specifically us. And he's gone on a run. 29, 27, 34, 20, 29. Crazy. Good week.
Insane.
So, you guys, let us know who won. We've obviously got it on screen. Leave us a comment. I think I won. So.
No, me for sure. They're not.
So now we've got the next segment, which are our risers and fallers. We're going to start with our risers because we're going to start with good spirits.
We are.
So our first risers team is the Phoenix Suns. What do you think?
We talked about them last week, but they've just kept on getting better. The big three's been playing well together. They all had 25 points or more against the Pacers at the start of the week. Obviously, they won in that close game versus the Bulls with the KD game winner. They're just managing to get it done. I think they're on a 7-game win streak, if I'm not mistaken.
Won their last 7. Yep.
Yeah, so just really string it together. We talked about it a lot last week, so I won't cover too much this week, but a team that's really in form.
Yep. So their last 4 games, they've had 4 40-point performances, which is crazy, 1 per game. Devin Booker been averaging 35 points per game last 5 games. He was obviously picked up in our team of the week. Grayson Allen is proving extremely valuable. He's got the best percentage in the league, a 3-point percentage in the league, and he had a 29-point game the other day against the Kings. So, great week.
And then the second team that we have is the OKC Thunder, taking up the first spot in the West now.
Sorry, can I interrupt you for a sec?
You can.
D-Book just dropped another 50. So there's another one. He just came off my phone. He had
that
50.
Makes my pick even better.
So that makes 5 40-plus point games in their last 5 games, which as a team, wow.
Insane.
Wow.
This guy doesn't turn his phone off during recording.
Sorry, I interrupted you as well. My bad.
It's fine, but that's how you know what time we're recording this. But I was saying the Thunder getting the number 1 seed in the West. Mm-hmm. So they definitely deserve a mention as the risers there. They're playing consistently good basketball. Obviously, they smacked the Spurs the other day. Shea's been playing insane. They're all just getting it done. Jay Will with the game winner.
Chet's looking comfortable as well. He's really figuring out his role on the team if he hadn't done it already. And the team chemistry is unreal. Have you seen the post-game interviews?
I have.
Dude, they're just like... They're rallying. It's so exciting to see like a young team like that really getting around each other, and that's only ever going to grow. So next year, if they're not going to win the championship this year, they've got good odds next year, higher odds next year. And did you have anything else on the Thunder? Or?
No, that was pretty much all I had to add.
So the 76ers were the third team. Obviously, I'm very happy about that. They're pretty much rolling on the back of Embiid. They've won 6 of their last 7 games. Obviously, one of them came to the Pacers, which was a couple of days ago, without Halliburton, which was a bit disappointing. They shot bad from 3, which has been a bit of a trend this week. But despite that, they've played really, really well. Offensive rebounds have been a big focal point for them. So they've been winning.
Yep, and then we also have an honourable mention to the Cavs, who have the number 1 net rating in the last 10 games, and they're continuing their good form. They're at the 4th seed in the East. We talked about them last week as well. But yeah, just continuing to play good basketball. Jay Allen stepping up. Donovan Mitchell is playing really well. Much more needs to be said about them.
No. Yep.
And now onto the fallers. Now we're getting sad. We're getting
nitty gritty.
That's it.
Damn.
And the first team we have there is the Heat.
They have been really bad.
They have
been really bad. So their last 5 games, they've lost. And before that, they had a 3-game winning streak. But to be honest, I wouldn't overreact. They've just made a move, quite a big move, for Terry Rozier, who's going to be very important for them. Whether he starts or is off the bench, I don't know if they would start him. I don't know if they have been starting him.
I think he did the other day. I think I was watching Celtics Heat, and I'm pretty sure he did start, but they got walloped in that game. They lost by, I don't know what it was in the end, but 20 to 30 points. They're just not hitting their flow at the moment. Jimmy only recently-ish came back, so yeah, I expect them to be better. They're going to improve. They've got good coaching, good personnel, so...
They're last in points per game in the last 5 games, and they're last in field goal percentage. And also Lowry, when he was playing for the team, was really bad. He got terribly, I think, near 28%.
Well, he's gone now.
He's gone now, so they don't really care. Rozier had an inefficient first couple games, but hopefully they can turn it around. Butler's been shooting really well. He's been 60% from the field, but he's only been taking 10 shots a game. So if he increases that to, say, 5 more shots a game, Butler's going to lead them to a lot of wins. Oh, well, they can turn it around if Butler shoots a bit more.
For sure.
My point.
And another team that I wouldn't worry about too much is the Pacers. They've just slid a bit in the past week, really. They're just falling down the standings in the East, but still playing good basketball. Tyrese has been out, obviously, so nothing too much to worry about there.
Another big change for them as well, so they're still trying to figure stuff out. They won against the Sixers a couple of days ago, as we mentioned, and I think they're going to build off that, which I'm excited about. Pascal playing extremely well.
Yeah, and one team that I might start to worry about is the Dallas Mavericks. With Luka playing as he's playing, insane level. they're still losing games.
I haven't watched Mavs games, so I can only rely on the statistics. On the season, they're ranked 8th in offense, but they're ranked 20th in their last 5. Obviously not due to Luka averaging 35 in his last week, and Kyrie averaging around 27 in his last week. So those two have been great. But yeah, there's not much I can say on what they need to do to improve because I haven't been watching the games. But I think as a team, they've just been shooting poorly.
Yeah, and they're not one of the top teams in the West. But I think they'll definitely level out as a playoff team. They should be in there. They just need to really find their form. Again, I didn't really watch a lot of Mavs basketball either, but I'm sure there's some issues that fans will, if you know, comment down below, that fans will want to get fixed. Also, quickly, because I know we're running out of time a bit, with the Mavs and the Suns, I want to... What happened?
We just talked about the Mavs as well. Why is this happening?
What happened?
He just dropped 60, Luka.
Crazy.
In a win. So, yeah, Mavs, you're heading in the right direction. Forget what we just said.
Cancel that out.
No. Why did when we talked about the Suns, Luka dropped 50. We talk about the Mavs, Luka dropped 60.
Yeah, and also that loops into the scoring inflation that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
So
relevant
topics. But I just want to talk about rivalry week real quick. Obviously, D-Book had 46 versus Luka, and that's a big rivalry. Chet versus Wemby, Kings Warriors. The end of that was insane. Do you think rivalry week went well? I didn't see it was like, or at least for me anyway, I didn't see it advertised that much. But it actually was the game matchups. Obviously, were very good. There was a lot in it.
I think, I didn't even know rivalry week was a thing until it rolled around. I saw, I think, one advertisement from the NBA on their Instagram account. But I think it lived up to its hype, even though there was no hype. It lived up to it
was a good week of basketball.
It was a great week of basketball.
Look at what we're talking about. We're running out of time to talk about the things we want to talk about.
Yeah, like a good week. Obviously, Chet versus Wemby. We haven't talked about that today, but that was a good game. I didn't watch it, but apparently those two were very fierce in their competition the whole game. And even though the Spurs were down by pretty much...
The game was over. Yeah.
It was over. The OKC Thunder were out to a big lead, but Victor was still playing like it was a tie game. They were going head to head, and Victor tried to post to Chet towards the end of the game, which I love to see them be aggressive towards each other. And I think that's a rivalry. Once the Spurs get better, and hopefully OKC can stay at the same level, hopefully that's a rivalry we see for the remainder of their careers. Yeah,
for sure. So overall, NBA, you're doing a good job. You get the Pick and Roll podcast seal of approval for rivalry week. Bring it back. Bring it back next year.
Bring it back.
I enjoyed it. But yeah, do we want to go into the games segment of the podcast now?
I would love to.
We're going to put these commentary calls into a tier list. Terry, two beauties. What tier does that rank in?
How many do we have to begin with?
5.
We got 5
different calls to
different rank. Calls and 4 different tiers.
S, A, B, C, D, E, F.
E, F. Terry, two beauties.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of great commentary calls, what do you think that is?
The Hornets announcer comes with a lot of energy. He's got some ripper calls. Terry, two beauties. It was after a free throw. So I'd have to put it in like D tier, I reckon.
Yeah, I think I would say C probably.
Yes.
It's memorable, but the moment it was clutch, but
it was a regular season game.
It was a free throw regular season game.
The bum Hornets.
What about they're shredding him? Luka versus the Suns when he crosses Cam Johnson, step back 3. Insane.
Obviously a great highlight. It's very recent. So I'd be interested to see how it ages. But as a call itself, I would probably put it in the C tier.
I'd say A. I quote that daily.
Damn, daily.
That's a personal bias, but the moment they're shredding him, which they were, that's the perfect descriptive word for what was happening to the Suns in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think an A tier. This is pretty obvious if you're a basketball fan. Rebound Bosch, back out to Allen, bang.
It's a call you only ever hear once, and it was executed perfectly. So much energy, such a high stake moment. That's S tier.
The fourth one, we have Goran Dragic, did you not get the memo? When D-Rose posters in with the back scratcher.
Yeah. Crazy NBA highlight, probably the best of Derrick Rose's career. I think the announcer made the highlight as great as it was, so I'm gonna go A tier. It's not up with it's not as high as the Bosch back out to Allen, but it's still up there.
Yeah, I'd say A or B for me. That's a pretty memorable one. It makes the highlight that much better.
Yeah.
And the last one, interesting. I want to include some variety, so I've got Randall puts up a 3 and the double bang.
Bang,
recently.
Bang.
Does that deserve a double bang?
Does it deserve a double bang? No. It wasn't a playoff game, was it?
No. And the double bang has only come out, I think, 8 times.
Yeah.
Ever. So
the bang bang call itself is S tier. We can both agree with that.
Oh, for sure.
But in that situation,
F.
We haven't got an F tier yet, so I'm going to put it in the F tier with you. Nice. I'm with you.
All right. That was it. It was a bit of fun.
That was great fun.
NBA sabotage. I'm on the negative side. You're on the positive side. He's trying to create a play that will beat prime Ja Morant, and I'm trying to sabotage him in the categories body, athleticism, handles, shooting, defense, and what was the last one?
Have you mentioned handles?
Yeah.
Inside scoring, outside scoring?
Yeah, sorry. Not shooting. Inside scoring and outside scoring.
Yep.
So you have the first pick. You're on the positive side. You're trying to make the player. Let's get into it.
What is the most important attribute when going against Ja Morant? I would say, usually it's height, but Ja Morant loves to post to centers. I feel like defense wins championships, so I'm going to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
A versatile defender. Yes. Interesting. So I'm trying to think what's the second most important thing to have against Ja. And I'm going to say, this is kind of the order we went last week, but I'm going athleticism, which includes speed.
No, that ruins my player.
And I'm going to go Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert?
Yes.
I'm glad you picked Rudy.
He's slow and for a center, he can't jump. But think of that in a point guard.
Yeah.
He's getting torched.
Yeah.
He's running up the floor.
I reckon the next most important attribute is height. And sorry, this is build, because it also includes thickness as well.
And height.
Boban's a strong motherfucker. Boban is strong, so I'm going to go with the Boban.
Nice. Yeah, look. Strong, and you've got Giannis' defense, although he's very slow, so it's going to be hard to run up and down the court. The fast break defense might struggle.
But remember, Rudy Gobert can shift his feet on defense. That's why he's a defensive player of the year. So
he can. I was just trying to think of someone slow.
He's bad. It'd be bad on offense though. I'm not looking forward to offense.
Yeah. You're not going to score much. It's mainly about stopping Ja at this point.
Yeah.
And what do we have left?
Handles inside, outside.
Who do I go with? Outside scoring, I'm going to go Andre Drummond. When was the last time Andre Drummond made a 3? I
think he's made a few in his career, but maybe it was the Pistons days.
The big penguin. Yeah, I was thinking centers who can't shoot, but you're going to struggle from the arc. On offense, speed anyway, you're gonna struggle.
I need someone who is going to get the ball at the high post, back him down, and just score with height. So inside scoring, I'm going to make this really interesting. I'm going to go Alper and Şengün, little underrated pick there.
That is baby Jokic.
Yeah.
Very interesting pick.
He's got some great post moves in his bag. And with the height of Bobby, I kind of like it.
Yeah. And look, I could have gone inside scoring as well because then it would have made a centre position very hard to play. But it makes it more interesting. And handles, I think, is the one left. But he's got terrible handles. I know you went Tristan Thompson last week.
Go with the other
negative handles.
Oh,
but
you could pick a double.
No, I'm trying to think of someone else.
Double Drummond. You can pick Drummond because remember you were going to pick Drummond last week.
I was going to pick Drummond last week. I'm going Andre Drummond handles.
No.
So this you're big and you have to score close to the paint. You're going to be versatile close to the paint, and you're going to be a good defender around the rim, but it's going to be hard to stop Ja, I think.
Yeah. He's also going to find it hard to dribble out to the 3-point line after he gets the rebound from Ja.
Yeah.
So he's got to get out to the 3-point line, then he's got to get back into the post. And can he do that with dribbling?
Who knows? Let us know down below who won this matchup.
It's a close one this week.
It's very close.
I like it. I like it
a lot.
Very good. Outro. It's all yours.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 3 of the Pick and Roll podcast. Remember, if you like, leave a like down below. Subscribe, turn notifications on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify if you're listening on there. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're putting stuff in the works, getting rolling in motion, getting the content out. So
we're constantly optimizing for you guys. We're coming up with new ideas, ways to make the podcast better. So please leave some feedback, and this podcast will grow to bounds and leap.
Yeah, let us know what you like, what you don't like. Share the content with your friends. I don't know. Any basketball fans. But yeah, with that said, we'll see you next time.
See you next week.
That was a good one.
Shit, yeah.